Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton agenda Awani dan malam ini perbincangan yang begitu penting untuk kita kerana ia tentang kelestarian teknologi masa depan dan juga tentang bahan yang ada di sekeliling kita iaitu minyak sawit. Dalam konteks itu saya ingin meminta izin untuk berbicara dalam bahasa Inggeris kerana ketika Presiden Obama berada di Malaysia, beliau telah menjadi saksi bersama dengan Perdana Menteri Malaysia tentang MOU yang ditandatangani dan salah satu MOU itu adalah berkenaan dengan bagaimana Malaysia kini mencuburi ke dalam bidang yang begitu penting iaitu bioteknologi dan menghasilkan produk-produk kimia yang lestari dengan menggantikan bahan kimia daripada petrokimia misalnya. Dan bersama saya pada hari ini ada dua orang yang begitu penting dalam syarikat yang bernama Verdesign. Syarikat inilah di mana kini Sime Darby ingin memiliki kepentingan majoriti. Pertama sekali yang paling hampir dengan saya, I would like to welcome Dr. E. William Radney. Thank you so much. You're the President and CEO of Verdesign. And of course, Mr. Brian Conn, the most important person because you look at the financial side of Verdesign, the CFO. So anything about money, I'll go there. And anything else, I'll come here to Doctor. I was just telling the audience why the topic tonight is very important because it's about palm oil, which is all around us in this country and this region. But we have always known that by itself, that's not sustainable because we need to look at the higher value chain for this. And as we go towards the future, this debate about climate change and its impact. So to reduce global footprint, for example, is a no-brainer. But maybe in the industrial side of things, we need to reduce our dependency on things that are not sustainable, looking at things that are more from renewable resources. However, we also understood the experience of before, whereby if we were to use things for the green side, but these are also products for the food side and food supply, for example. So it creates an unwanted competition and you see the price rising so high for food stuff. That's also what we don't want. So one, to have the ability to substitute is one thing, but the scalability, for example, the economic side, I'll go to the CFO very soon. But from you, Doctor, if you can please tell us what makes it so exciting for Verdesign and your team to partner with Sime Darby and look at the Malaysian side of things, for example, because it's not just feedstocks maybe, but the whole bigger picture, if you can paint that for us.
Absolutely. So, about a year ago, Brian headed up a team that really evaluated Southeast Asia as a center for our commercial activities. We had focused on vegetable oils very early on in the development of our chemical platforms. And just the infrastructure, the talent pool, the specific composition of some of the fatty acids within palm and palm kernel oil made it a very attractive center for our operations. I think globally the team looked at Indonesia and other locations, and Malaysia, because of all those things I mentioned, turns out to be the optimal place to carry out. And we were fortunate enough to partner with Sime Darby, a world leader in palm oil and palm oil derivatives. That perfect marriage.
So Verdesign has a slew of proprietary technologies looking at substituting chemicals that the industries of the world rely upon in a big way to produce stuff like nylon, for example. But you don't have now, if what you're doing comes out fully. So we don't have to use the traditional one, which they rely from chemicals from petrochemical industry, for example.
That's correct.
So how crucial is that?
Well, I mean, we think there's several positive aspects of converting those chemicals made from petroleum to renewable feedstocks. Obviously, you mentioned already just the renewable nature, the green nature. Key automobile manufacturers are looking for green components under the hood, and so that would certainly fit into that. Reduce carbon footprint, obviously, dependency on foreign oil, but also probably even more importantly to everybody is the fact that our cost to manufacture will be advantaged over the traditional petrochemical route.
It's either on par or it's much lower.
It is advantaged, so it will be cheaper than making it via petrochemical.
Okay. How do you do that? Because before I go to really dollars and cents, because this is a new kind of technology.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of R&D effort spent on it. And it's not cheap, obviously, to study this for a lot of years, for example. So how do you bring down the cost?
My colleague here will talk about bringing the cost.
By, CFO. The organism that we use has evolved for millions of years to efficiently process oils, vegetable oils. So we're starting with something that's already working. It's not a chemical process that we have to invent. The process itself is a well-practiced process. It's fermentation.
Yes.
It's been used for thousands of years. Yeast has been used for thousands of years. So, we have a pretty good head start. And then it kind of boils down to the cost of the raw material inputs.
Okay.
And per unit of product that we can make, co-products from palm oil production are much more cost efficient than petroleum co-products are.
Agreed.
And it's just, and obviously less volatile and less subject to geopolitical shocks as well.
So what went wrong a few years ago with biodiesel and our attempt to go in it in a big way? This time around, we have other advantages.
Well, fuels are difficult to compete with.
Okay.
They're low value. They're very affected by the world economy.
Yes.
When the crash happened in 2008, fuel consumption went down. At the same time, there was a natural gas boom in the United States and Europe, and a lot of companies went out when oil was trading at $140 per barrel and raised a bunch of money to make fuels from biotechnology.
Yes.
That didn't turn out to be so great because the cost of oil is much lower now.
Agreed.
The markets are much larger. Chemicals are different. They're they're in diverse applications, and their markets are more stable.
Okay, I have to go for the first commercial break. But once we are back, are we really looking at transfer of technology also, or does this mean that feedstock from here just go to Southern California, for example? Because when we talk about stuff like this, sometimes the local wisdom in things needs to be matched up to whatever it is that we're pursuing, because that will be the thoughts, or in the thoughts of a lot of people in Malaysia. Right. Because if I'm in secondary school right now looking at what I'm going to do in the future, this might be the new holy grail in terms of finding a career and really pursuing things not only good for myself, but it's also good for society and the world. So let's talk about that after this short break. Hi, you're still watching Agenda Awani. Tonight I'm speaking in English because I have two very great guests here from Verdesign, and I'm just going to say the word billion-dollar molecules because that's one way of looking at what this company does. And Simon Darby is now a huge partner of Verdesign. So I'm going to go straight to how do we look at this if we were to look at it from the Malaysian side of things, because we've gone through a lot of partnerships before, and sometimes the issue of transfer of technology and stuff didn't really work out well. But looking towards this MOU, and I look at a lot of selling points there, and it's very clear that this is an investment for the future, block by block, of course, but the potential is enormous.
Absolutely.
So how would you paint the picture to inspire the young Malaysians to look at this really as their future also?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly we view it as a true partnership with Simon Darby. The intent is to collaborate deeply at a scientific level. Certainly our intent to build commercial assets for the production of these molecules here in Malaysia, which would mean high-tech jobs locally, revenue generation. Science is an amazing thing, and you talk about the billion-dollar molecule, and certainly in our portfolio we have a number of those. So it's a very exciting time, and I think it's going to be great for both Malaysia and the U.S. as we continue to work transferring technology, transferring manufacturing processes that will bring an elevation of the technology suite here in Malaysia, and that's good for society.
Bill mentioned that we have pretty much looked worldwide for places to scale up. And one of the things that I think differentiated Malaysia from North America, Europe, or Indonesia is a strong desire to move downstream, to find added value. And that's exactly what we want to do. So we envision it's not just simply taking raw materials from Malaysia and bringing them to the U.S. Quite the opposite, bringing our technology to Malaysia and building a whole new industry here, and hopefully attracting further downstream industries. I mean, we make intermediates that go into nylon polymers, but those markets serve companies that build cars and produce textiles and all kinds of things. If we can build a big enough center of excellence for our products here, we can attract downstream products and multiply that value even more.
Because it's a new thing. Right now, problem with media, like what we have here, is we like to look at MOUs and look at the numbers. So a few million here, close to 30, 40 million, and then we're looking at the 200 million US dollar market yearly. But if we were to look beyond that, you see, if you're promising something that's going to be sustainable and it's going to be used pervasively, the industry as it is now is to maybe 200 million. But if it goes on to the future and people have buy-in into this in a large way, so the migration to this new substitution for petrochemical materials, for example, is limitless, because as other industry grow, this will be in it together.
That's right.
Or do you look at it that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are the markets that our products serve. So we have a technology platform that serves about a $70 billion market. But that industry serves a $1.5 trillion market. We want to grab a piece of that $70 billion market here, but we also want to attract a piece of the $1.5 trillion market here too.
That's why they call them CFOs. I like it. From billion, we move to trillion. Without making the chemistry professors locally cringe, I like to attempt at this DDDA thing, because that's one of the key things when I go to your website or any releases. I see that. So if you can paint the picture of how DDDA, for example, is very important for you, because you have proven that it can be scaled up, for example, with other institutions in America and work together with them. Why is that such a large breakthrough for you?
It's our first molecule to take commercial. It is the smallest market opportunity of all the molecules we look at, but it's got some advantages that it's what we sells for a very high price. And the market is what we would call constrained. There's not enough production of that molecule. One of the reasons it's staying very high price. So as a demonstration of our technology, a demonstration of our scalability, a demonstration of our feedstock strategy, which is quite unique, using palm oil derivatives, and then getting customer adoption of these green chemicals to go into a variety of applications, including fuel lines and, as you mentioned, a variety of other polymers. It's a fantastic first commercial entree for us. Our second molecule is a roughly $6 billion market opportunity that goes into clothing and carpets and adhesives and things like that. So there's as a first molecule from the scientific point of view, it's the optimal molecule, and from a financial perspective, it is as well.
Okay. I want to go to the last break, but once we are back, that's why this is a lesson for all you guys that are studying chemistry and hating it. These three acids that I'm talking here, from DDDA to sebacic to adipic, for example, these are billion-dollar molecules, and we're looking even at trillions. So I want to go back to the basic here, the fundamental science that made all this possible, and your journey from there to where we are talking about right now, that after this short break. You are still watching again Awani, and I'm still talking about billion-dollar molecules that can have access to trillion-dollar markets, for example, in US dollars, right? So I have Ver Design with me here, so I'm going to ask the next question, which is a bit basic, because let's look at things simple, how you started out, for example, because Coda Genomics, for example, looking at synthesis of synthetic genes, and from there you move on, you want to look at that billion-dollar molecules yourself. But a few years back, when we talk about these things, even green chemistry, for example, there were a lot of skeptics. So how did you persevere, manage to get the right knowledge workers, fitting together everyone, and coming out with this breakthrough?
Absolutely.
So he's a really good boss, first of all.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
Okay, so we started out thinking about the end in mind, which is what are the molecules we wanted to make, and there's some key building block molecules that go into everyday sort of uses. Nylons being one, right? So what are the intermediates we would want to make from that would address that? And then thinking about the end in mind, it would be then. What sort of organism would you like to, and what sort of feedstock would you like to ultimately get to the sort of production rates that would be competitive with a petrochemical? And so we are engineering a very unique organism, and that one that, as Brian already mentioned, metabolizes alkanes, fatty acids. And what we have done then is basically sort of hijack some of the genetic machinery, and then asked our bug to, instead of doing what it normally does, which would be to chop up these things piece by piece to make energy, food, we wanted to stop at a 12-carbon diacid. So our scientists are very talented, and they engineered the organism so that instead of eating this molecule all the way, it would stop at 12, or eating it all the way and stop at 6. And so it was really thinking about the end in mind, all the different things that go into a production host, which is resistance to infection and being able to work at the right pHs so you can get the product out. So we thought about all those different things that would make a very robust production host to make the particular molecules we wanted.
So it's like trying to engineer the Prada of molecules, for example, you know? So that sounds expensive. So if you're looking at, I'm sure if that discipline become robust, especially in Malaysia, so you're looking at new partners and stuff, what would be the ideal scenario if for somebody here very interested in this line of activities and R&D, for example, what would be the ideal scenario for you to have an interest to look at, to partner, or to look as vendor, or whatever it is?
Well, we are looking. Late last year, I came out with a couple of our senior scientists, and we had very productive meetings with the university labs here in KL. So we're always looking for talent, and we fully intend to collaborate with scientists here.
Okay, the money that has been mentioned again and again in a lot of media, I understand that it will be used to improve the technology that you have. So if you can share with us, without really giving out secrets, but at least painting the picture of the next wave, of the next step that you're looking at.
Well, we call it Generation 3, and that just makes the organism that we have more efficient, more robust, so that the financial return, how cheaply we can make our product, gets better and better. So we're always striving to continue to improve the organisms to some theoretical maximum, and then as well as expand our portfolio. We have we have big dreams about addressing big market opportunities with new molecules, and that's going to take continued research and development.
If you're looking at it from a strategic partnership of knowledge, because sometimes I would like to bring in the world of education here, because too many times people in the industry, even in broadcasting, for example, we look at the graduates coming out and say, if only they were trained more in this way. So how would you look at, because this is becoming more and more a very intensive knowledge-based economy. So is that what you're looking at also, to try to influence the next generation of knowledge, workers coming out? Because otherwise, it will not be sustainable, because the ideas and everything else is going to be discussed with only a small elite group of people.
I'll answer that from my perspective as a child of the 60s. I grew up during the space race.
All right, cool.
And the government in the U.S. made a huge commitment toward education of the sciences. And, there was, all my friends of my generation were interested in going to the moon and building rocket ships and all those things. I think it starts with education. And, any nation that wants to expand its knowledge workers and its scientific abilities has to start with education. Then the industry will follow.
I like the fact that you admitted to being the flower power kind of. But
I was a little kid in the 60s. I wasn't a hippie.
I won't hold that against you. But I remember that very starkly. Time magazine, every now and then, we refer back to that era and how that helped advancement of science and technology. So it's a no-brainer, right? The trillion-dollar market, the billion-dollar molecules are all stacked up. The technology is proven. You have it, and we're partnering. So more Malaysians, more organizations, more institutions in Malaysia should really look at this. This is not just about Ver Design and Sam Davi, for example.
Right, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, again, as Brian mentioned, the education is a path forward to, as you mentioned earlier, unlimited sort of opportunities. And, we're in the realm of industrial chemicals, and obviously this has been going on in therapeutics and diagnostics, and how do you improve society? And I mean, this is a path.
So from that black liquid gold that's called petroleum that Malaysia also has, we must really now look at the golden color of liquid that's coming out from the palm oil industry, for example.
Right.
So I only have 1 minute left. So if I can give you that 1 minute, what would you say to the ordinary Malaysians? I know you've spoken to Malaysian Biotech Corp, to Sam Davi, to the Prime Minister Office, but if you have a 30-second message just for the people out there, what would you say?
We view this as a fantastic opportunity to, as Brian mentioned earlier, leverage the palm oil industry to higher-end value products, higher-end jobs, education. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for not just Ver Design and Sam Davi, but Malaysia, the palm oil industry as a whole.
Thank you so much, Doctor and Brian, for making time.
Thank you.
I'm just going to convince Brian after this that new initiative like this needs new way of communication, and then we should partner Awani, put Awani somewhere there to communicate these billion-dollar molecules and trillion-dollar market access. Thank you so much to both gentlemen. Terima kasih banyak kepada anda kerana menonton. Hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri kalau anda berminat dengan diskusi topik ini kepada pelbagai platform yang Astro Awani ada, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, ataupun muat turun aplikasi Mudah Alih iOS dan Android supaya anda boleh menonton juga secara langsung di gadget Mudah Alih anda. Sekian, selamat malam dan terima kasih. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.